One thing nobody's talked about on the MOOC yet is the ability to project from mobile phones and mobile devices. And I've got a short YouTube clip there, which I'm not going to show now, but I'm going to put up on the SlideShare. You can have a look at, which is some work that I looked at 2 years ago in a cafe in London with people projecting from either an iPod Touch stand, as you can see that white ball there, or a small projector. Within 12 to 18 months, you will see a large number of devices that will be able to project from your hand. Now that sounds great, and it will be great because you'll be able to show work, art, etc. But you'll also be able to show images that maybe you would not want shown around your classroom area. And projecting, and Glenn says projecting a keyboard as well, which is, yeah, that's been, the projection keyboard's been around quite a long time now in some contexts. So that's really good. That's going to have some huge implications about how we use mobile. And I think one of the ways I think we'll see it used in vocational education, for example, was if you're a plumber or you're a person working in a very dark workspace and you want to have things like wiring diagrams shown to you, you'll be able to just put it on the side and project it up on the wall while you're working of where the thing is. You know, how to wire up a boiler or things like that with plumbers. I think that will happen within vocational ed very, very quickly. We've talked about NFC. One of the things I want to give, somebody I didn't give a plug for on Twitter, and I should have, is a guy called Tom Cooper. And I'll just, Tom is working in Lewisham in Lewisham. NFC stands for Near Field Communications. What it is an ability for you to have a chip within a device that when you wipe it over a reader will actually tell you something about the device or even transfer information. It's a bit in the UK, if you've been to the UK, we use things called Oyster cards, which are for paying our travel on the tube, and it's a similar technology. It's going to be really, really interesting to see how that impacts on things, because it means, for example, you can actually put money on your phone, and by swiping it across a reader, you can pay for things. Now, what Tom has been involved with in Lewisham, in one school there, is they've taken these travel cards that all learners get for free, but they're free travel from the London there, and they've actually allowed them to use them for paying. They're paying for dinner, for their school lunch, etc. And for children that get free school lunches, those cards are topped up automatically. And you can't tell if the card is topped up automatically by the parent or by the state, so there's no stigma about taking free school lunches, which can be an issue for some children in the UK. And that's just really an interesting technology, and that's going to happen in both private mobile banking and paying for things like newspapers at railway stations or car parking spaces. There's some great stuff on Wikipedia on NFC, which I haven't put the link in. Thank you for pointing that out, Jap. Good point, actually. There's a load of stuff on Wikipedia on it. There's another, currently the data transmission rates are quite low, but Jetstream, which is being piloted by Toshiba and I think Sony, allows you to transfer 530 megabytes of data in a second. To you and I, that's about 70% of a CD worth, and quite a lot of HD video, to be honest. Very, very quickly, and because it's only 10 centimeters, it doesn't leak around the room like wireless and Bluetooth does, so it may be a little bit more secure from some people's worries. Right, I'm trying to tell you what's coming next. Over the coming days, I hope to have others do some small webinars on Illuminate. I think these are likely to be on Thursday morning and Friday afternoon for UK time, for European time. I'll put some links up. One of the guys from Singapore is a guy called Richard Sanford. You can Google richardsanford.net. He's been doing some work with looking at some of the stuff in Singapore parks and Singapore generally. I've got Louise Duncan, who hopefully is going to produce something on Slide to Learn, so that's one for you, Malcolm, if you haven't heard from Slide to Learn. And I'm hoping for Faye to do some work on geocaching, but that final one is not yet confirmed, but I'm hoping to have that happen. I like the jokes about tinfoil and wallets. Yeah, I just wouldn't have any money in my wallet, never mind my phone and my wallet. I'd be penniless. It'd just be easier, I think. I think we have got some issues around privacy, digital security, digital awareness, which we're going to have to work a lot with young people. We're going to bring up some questions. And I'm going to post some questions up to the discussion group tomorrow morning around this. But I think when we're talking about mobile in K12, we've got to think realistically about opportunity and creativity. And I think there's some great stuff. Let's talk about some stuff within pre-K stuff, as people are talking about. I think there's some great stuff on talking books. There's some great things on digital photo frames that will actually record what children say. I think there's some really interesting work with tagging. If you haven't yet had a look at a product called Touch a Tag, which is a simple RFID tag that you can create and tag yourself to create the Internet of Things. It's worth having a look at. And I think that we haven't even started to touch the area with creativity, with video and digital storytelling. One of my favourite activities is an activity called Mapsticks, which you can do in two ways. You can do it with a piece of wood and a piece of string, and children have to go out into the playground or the area and pick up things that remind them of their journey and wrap it around the stick with a piece of thread, piece of string, and then come in and talk about it when they come back into class. But you can do exactly the same thing with a mobile device, where children take a series of photographs or a series of sound files with a digital camera. It doesn't have to be what you and I have been talking about within mobile. As I said, mobile devices aren't just phones and laptops and tablets. And they come in and talk about their story, or they take them home and they talk about recording their religious festivals. I've seen some great things done about people recording their particular versions of Christmas, or getting them to record their elder members, so their grandmothers, mothers and fathers, thing about Christmas at the time when they were growing up, etc. I think we must be also thinking about the idea of being aware of risk. Now, I don't want to over-label risk. I think some people do, but I think also people occasionally underestimate risk, and reputational risks for teachers for being naive and issues like that, and for learners, is something we really want to be aware. And especially if we're dealing with adults or vulnerable adults or vulnerable children, it's worth thinking about that. And I think one of the biggest challenges you all face from a mobile perspective is how to inform learners and teachers and parents. One of the things that I think is quite interesting is that ability for the mobile device and work that's done online and digitally to act as a bridge between learners and their parents, and also their grandparents. And that idea of sharing information digitally is quite an interesting area to have. Now I'm going to wrap up at that, and I said I'd slide my slide share. I said I'd speak for about an hour, and I have. That's almost perfect. I'm online for a little bit of time now. If people want to have some questions, either via email or via Illuminate, I'm more than happy to do either. So thank you very much for participating.